Hey everyone, imagine being teleported to another world and becoming the hero of that place after defeating evil. After that, you reincarnate and return to your normal world, but when you reach a certain age, you're sent back to the world where you became a hero. Crazy, right? That's exactly the story we'll see in today's anime. But, before we start, hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel. Let's go. For the recap, the anime begins with Yuki talking to his childhood friend at school. He tells her not to get too close, as others might think the wrong things. She says she doesn't care and offers to cut his hair since it's quite long. Yuki agrees, and she becomes really happy, saying she'll make him look handsome. While they're talking, the weather outside turns dark, and a magical circle appears in the center of the room. Soon, it emits a bright light, and Yuki looks at it as if he already knows what it's about. After that, all the students in the room are teleported to another world. As soon as they appear, they are attacked by armored demons. When Yuki is about to be attacked, his friend Yuhi jumps in front of him to save him, but as she hugs him, he simply obliterates the demon with just the tip of his finger. Then, human soldiers appear and start fighting the demon. The students take cover, and a knight finds them, telling them to leave immediately as it's a war zone and very dangerous. Next, they are taken to the king, who receives them as heroes from another world. The king explains that his kingdom is being invaded by demons, and like 5 years ago, they summoned heroes from another world to help. Yuki finds this moment strange, as for him, much more time has passed, maybe around 15 years. The princess asks them to help with the demon problem, and the students have no choice but to accept, fearing they'll be expelled from the castle if they refuse. After that, they start training with swords and magic. Although most of them struggle, Yuki's friend Yuhi manages to use magic on her first try. Yuki observes from a distance and says she has a talent for magic. While he watches, the instructor asks why he's been skipping classes since the first day. He addresses her by her name anyway, and she says it's disrespectful of him to do so. She adds that his arrogant attitude reminds her of the hero from 5 years ago. Little does she know she's talking to the same person. Then, she tells him to go back to training, and if he doesn't, she'll force him to, even if she has to use brute force. Yuki finds this interesting and challenges her to come at him. She rushes towards him, but he easily dodges and playfully taps her on the spot you see right there. She's completely flustered, and Yuki asks if she remembers now that she took the hit. After she remembers who he is, her attitude completely changes. She kneels before him and calls him Setsusama, his former name. At this moment, we discover that the girl is a crazy masochist and begs him to use her as a chair. Look at her crazy ideas. She's so manic that after he sits on her, she asks if he lost weight. He replies that he's in a different body now and comments that it's kind of creepy she noticed. She responds that she feels happy serving him and is thrilled to have her master back. In his thoughts, he says her masochism has gotten worse than before. At that moment, a knight arrives and asks why you guys haven't subscribed to this channel yet. Subscribe now. Actually, he asks what on earth they are doing there. Elka explains to Glenn, the knight, that the one before them is Setsu, who has returned after 5 years. Glenn is surprised but believes it when he sees how Elka is acting. Later, while talking to his former companions, he reveals that in his last battle against Toma, the villain of that world, he ended up reincarnating as a baby in his original world. And now, for some reason, he has been summoned again. After talking a bit, he goes to check on Yuhi, who is making great progress with magic. He tells her that she might have talent for magic. She's a bit worried about using that magic for war, but says she'll do anything to protect Yuki. His old companions come to talk to him and explain that they'll probably have a war, and unfortunately, they couldn't avoid it. Yuki says it's not a problem since there's no other alternative. He declares that he will end the war once again and make that world peaceful. His companions offer to go with him, but he refuses, saying he needs people to protect his city if Toma, his old enemy, gets involved. The next day, they camouflage themselves and try to enter the treasure room. Inside, he takes his old sword, named Kuramu. After that, he prepares to leave. But before he goes, his friend Yuhi arrives and asks where he's going. He explains to her that this is the second time he's been called to that world, and now he's going to meet someone he knows to stop the war that's plaguing that world. Yuhi starts crying and asks to go with him, but he declines, saying it's too dangerous for her. He adds that he's doing this so she won't be in danger. At that moment, she agrees to stay but tells him to close his eyes because she has something to give him before he leaves. He does as she says, and just when it seemed like she was going to give him a kiss, she disappoints us and uses wind and fire magic to give him a funny hairstyle. Yuhi says that while he's away, she'll work hard in her training to help him protect that world together with him. And after that, Yuki embarks on his journey. Later, we see a girl traveling in a carriage, apparently carrying some merchandise. At some point during the journey, the horse stops and refuses to continue on the path. Just then, a giant boar attacks them. The carriage overturns, and the girl is thrown off. As she falls, she drops a box containing some kind of brooch. She becomes very worried and goes to retrieve it. Once she recovers it, she calmly puts it away as if there weren't a gigantic boar about to charge at her. At that moment, she faces the boar and starts talking to it, telling the creature that she's all bones and wouldn't be a good meal for it. Before the boar could attack her, our protagonist appears and saves the girl. When she sees him, she mistakes him for a bandit trying to steal her money, but she tells him that she needs the money to deliver her cargo. Yuki says he doesn't want money, he was just passing by. He adds that if she's safe, then it's alright. He says he's leaving, but as he starts walking away, she asks if he would consider being hired as her bodyguard. She says she can pay a lot of money. He declines at first, saying he doesn't need money. However, she makes a cute face, and he ends up accepting, but he tells her he won't carry her merchandise, which disappoints her. The most important thing for her, though, is that brooch she picked up earlier. She says she won't show it to him, even if he becomes her bodyguard. They continue their journey and finally arrive at a city. Yuki is impressed by how much the city has changed during the 5 years he was away. The girl looks for ships to go to the demon continent, but all the boatmen refuse, citing the war period and the danger of going there. She becomes desperate, and at one point, some guards approach her. They see she has a merchant's license and get angry because even during war, all they care about is making money. They ask to inspect her bag, but she refuses, as the brooch she's protecting is in there. The guards get irritated by her disobedience and attempt to hit her. But before they can strike, Yuki steps in and tells them to stop bothering her since they have no permission to inspect civilian. The guards consider attacking Yuki, but seeing that many people are watching, they decide not to do anything for now and give up. After that, a large black shadow is shown in the water, and soon you'll find out what it is under the water. They then go to eat, and Yuki asks what she'll do since no one wants to take her due to the ongoing war. Yuki tells her he'll take her there, and from the beginning, he had the intention of going there. But to take her, he has one condition: she must spend the night at an inn and rest since she has already exerted herself too much. She agrees, but her stingy side kicks in, and she asks Yuki to split the cost of the room at the inn. They go there, and Yuki takes a bath, telling her she should go after him. She goes, but before she does, she leaves her brooch with Yuki, saying she trusts him to keep it safe. Seeing the brooch, Yuki remembers that he bought it in the past. Meanwhile, Ruri explains to him the history of that brooch. Before her grandfather passed away, he received one last commission as a craftsman. A customer asked him to repair that brooch, but he passed away before finishing the job, and Ruri ended up completing what he had started. She promised she would deliver it back to the owner, which is why she's doing all of this to get it to its rightful owner. After she explains, she goes to take a bath, leaving Yuki with the brooch. He examines it and realizes it's the same brooch he bought a long time ago in his other life. But he doesn't understand how it got broken, as he had cast a strong protection spell on it. Later, they go to sleep. During the night, those horned guards return and ask about the whereabouts of the merchant and her guard. They reach the room and accuse them of associating with demons. Yuki takes Ruri and starts running away from the guards. They chase them until they reach a dead-end location. But then, they remember that large dark shadow in the water from earlier. Now, we find out what it really is. Yuki grabs the girl and jumps into the sea from up high. But before he hits the water, a gigantic creature catches him. Yuki calls it Levia, short for Leviathan, the king of the seas. Apparently, the giant monster has been Yuki's companion for a long time. Riding on Levia, Yuki and Ruri head towards the demon continent. They spot the continent starts with an amazing fight between Levia and a kraken. Levia becomes desperate and asks for Setsu's help. After she wins, Levia takes her human form and comes to Setsu and Ruri. He introduces her to Ruri, says her name is Levia, and she's the goddess of the sea and his friend. After that, Levia gets angry and asks him why he didn't help her. He responds that he knew she could handle it, and besides, a fight between kaijus is really fun to watch. After that, they wonder what to do with that giant squid since they can't just leave it there. Setsu then has an idea. He decides to make squid rings, which everyone finds delicious. While they're eating, some demon children arrive, and Setsu offers them some squid rings. They eat them and find them delicious, asking him to make some for their parents too. Their parents accept, and they start taking the giant kraken to the fisherman village. Before they arrive, the anime shows the village people complaining that thanks to that giant squid, they can't fish, and their supplies are running out. One of them gets agitated and says they'll have to gather all the fishermen to deal with that squid once and for all. And at that moment, Setsu appears and asks where he can put that giant squid, obviously shocking everyone. Afterwards, they have a big party to celebrate, and Livia is hailed as the goddess of the sea. Meanwhile, Setsu and Ruri are responsible for frying and selling the squid rings. After this, a demon who is the head of the Demon King's guard watches the village from afar, and because all the lights are on, he thinks they've been attacked, and their houses set on fire. He hurries there. After that, Ruri asks Livia how she met Setsu. She tells that 5 years ago, Setsu tried to cross her sea without permission. She decided to fight him, but she lost, and he forced her to work with him to bring peace and end the war. At that moment, Ruri discovers that Setsu is the legendary hero who saved the world 5 years ago, and she had no idea that he was the one she tried to hire as a guard, and becomes desperate. Afterwards, Vlad, that demon we saw earlier, arrives in the village and yells that he won't let the humans do as they please. But at that moment, he realizes there's no human attack at all, they're just having a party. After that, they go near the sea and start talking. Vlad comes and apologizes to Livia for his earlier behavior and is surprised to see her in her human form in the city. After that, Setsu appears and greets Vlad, who is surprised to see the hero Setsu return. Even though his face and body look different, he recognizes him. Setsu asks why the Demon King's right-hand man distanced himself from her. Vlad explains that he was searching for Livia and never imagined she would be with the missing hero. Then he bows to Setsu and Livia and begs them to save Demon King Dezes. Afterward, he explains that Demon King Dezes was proposed to by a big merchant named Turan. He explains that the merchant offered his funds and riches to end the war, and in return, Demon King Dezes would serve him, and he has a collar with a binding spell for that. If she accepts, he supposedly would end the war, but Demon King Dezes would be his slave forever. He says the war started a month ago when humans invaded, which is strange because exactly a month ago, those armored soldiers also invaded the human kingdom with the Demon Kingdom's flag. And just as they did there, they did it here in the Demon Kingdom, hoisting the flag of Destinia, the human kingdom. Setsu at this moment begins to understand what's going on. Apparently, someone is plotting to make humans and demons go to war again. After that, Setsu calls Livia to save Demon King Dezes. They enter the forest and hurry towards the Demon King's castle. On the way, they encounter some monsters that they easily defeat. At this moment, we see a bit more of Livia's power in her human form. Livia asks Setsu what his plan is when they get there. He responds that he'll simply arrive and leave a like and subscribe to the channel, so go ahead and do that too. Actually, he's planning to arrive and put an end to everything and save Dezes. And he says it's very strange that right now, just before a war is about to break out, neither side has started it, and a suspicious guy comes to sell peace, bringing a strong cursed collar that even affects the Demon Queen. They continue towards the castle. Afterward, we see a little more of Dezes' life until now. She says that she always fought to defend her people, until one day during the war against the demon, she was defeated by Setsu, who extended his hand to her and proposed that they stop fighting and live in peace. As a symbol of reconciliation between humans and demons, he gave an amulet to Dezes. After some time, Setsu disappeared, and Dezes thought in her thoughts that even if he never appeared again, she would keep the promise of living in peace that she made with him. Until one day, strangely, the amulet that Setsu gave her broke. And Vlad says he would take it to a famous craftsman in Destinia, and he could fix it. This craftsman happens to be Ruri's grandfather, and you already know what ornament it is. After that, it shows the day when the supposed army of humans attacked the demons. Dezes sends 2 emissaries to Destinia to find out what's happening. Soon after, the merchant Turan arrives and proposes marriage to Dezes. The demons are obviously indignant, but Dezes, to keep the promise she made with Setsu, considers really marrying the tricky merchant to maintain peace. Dezes thinks a lot, but always remembers Setsu's promise and doesn't see any other way to keep the promise except marrying the scoundrel merchant. She starts to cry, remembering that Setsu used to say that black suited her, and now she will be forced to wear a white dress. After that, it shows Turan talking to a hooded man. And at that moment, we discover that there is really a mastermind behind all this, but we are not shown who this person is yet. Now, we return to the wedding day, and everyone is in position. The humans are happy, and the demons are obviously indignant. Desus appears in her wedding dress, with an unhappy expression. She walks slowly to the altar. After arriving, the priest begins announcing the wedding, and he says they can exchange their vows. At this moment, Turan takes out the collar with the binding curse and says that thanks to this marriage, he will bring about world peace. And in return, he asks to become the new demon king. He moves to put the collar on Desus and asks her to swear eternal love to him. At this moment, she remembers Setsu again but decides to accept her cruel destiny in exchange for her people's peace. But before the scoundrel could put the collar around her neck, a huge explosion happens above the church, and then Setsu appears, saying he came to save the princess. In the distance, Vlad and Ruri watch the explosion and say that Setsu is really extravagant and hurry to arrive there. We return to the church, and Turan's henchmen attack Setsu, but Livia deals with them one by one easily. After that, she comments to Desus that she really doesn't look good in white. At this moment, that hooded guy who was talking to Turan earlier appears and casts a shadow spell on Livia, paralyzing. Then, he launches several attacks against the sea goddess. However, before they could hit her, Setsu intervenes and saves the girl. The hooded creep doesn't understand anything, and Setsu appears behind him and gives him a punch. He gets up and says he didn't expect hero Setsu to appear and mentions that this is something important that he has to report to his boss. He launches an attack at Setsu, who catches it with his bare hands and counters. The hooded guy realizes he has no chance and runs off to report to his supposed boss. After that, Desus comes and hugs Setsu. She says she missed him a lot, and Setsu says he's happy that she's okay. Afterwards, the guys they defeated are consumed by curses, and Setsu examines the collar that Turan wanted to put on Desus. He realizes that the mastermind behind all this is Toma, his old enemy from 5 years ago. Setsu says that now that he knows who the enemy is, he will go to Regulos, the kingdom of the beast people. Desus says that having their help would be good. After that, Ruri and Vlad arrive, and the demon is sad to see the state the hall is in. Then Ruri gives Setsu the ornament, and he hands it back to Desus, leaving the demon queen very happy. After that, they say goodbye, and Desus says she wanted to go with them, but under the current circumstances, it's not possible. Setsu thanks her and says that when peace returns, he will take her for a spin anytime she wants. And she is happy with that. Obviously, she has a crush on Setsu, it's just that some people don't see it. Afterwards, Ruri reveals that Desus allowed her to open a shop there, and she plans to follow in her grandfather's footsteps and become a great craftsman. Vlad thanks Setsu for saving his queen, and they say goodbye. And Setsu and Livia head towards the kingdom of the beast people. Today's episode begins by showing how Setsu met Yuhi. We see that at first, Setsu wasn't very friendly, but gradually, they became close friends. One day, as they were coming back from school, Yuhi expresses her wish to attend the same high school as Setsu. She asks for his opinion, and he, in a rather cold manner, suggests that she should try to get into an easier school and not put too much effort into being close to him. Upon hearing this, Yuhi gets upset and walks away. She decides to study hard to get into the same school as him, but unfortunately, her grades aren't that great. One day, while heading home, some guys try to bother her and ask her out, but while she's being harassed, Setsu arrives and manages to scare them away. Setsu asks her what she plans to do, stating that striving for something impossible isn't healthy. But despite this, Yuhi insists on going to the same school as him and continues studying. Seeing the girl's determination, Setsu decides to help her study. He tells her that in return, he only wants her to stop crying. And that's how we learn how these two became so close. Some time later, we return to the world to which they were summoned, and there's a magical power evaluation among the people from Earth. Here, we notice that Yuhi is far ahead of the others in terms of magical power. The instructors praise her and say that's enough for today. After that, Yuhi approaches Setsu's friends and makes a request. She asks them to train her to become even stronger because she needs it to stand by his side. Elka accepts, and Yuhi's training begins. They start sparring, and Elka notices that Yuhi has a lot of potential, more than anyone from the other world. But she emphasizes that power alone isn't enough, Yuhi needs courage. Right after that, she takes Yuhi to an underground sewer-like place to test her. The test involves defeating a giant alligator-like creature. Yuhi is terrified upon seeing it but decides to attack the creature. However, her initial attack isn't enough, and the creature counterattacks, scratching her. Yuhi launches a second attack and manages to restrain the creature, but it's still alive. Elka instructs Yuhi to finish it off, but Yuhi hesitates to take another being's life. Elka explains that on the battlefield, she can't have such concerns, as if she doesn't do it, someone else will. She tells Yuhi that if she wants to protect someone, she must be ready to take lives. Yuhi is frustrated that she can't do it. Another day, a girl approaches Yuhi. She heals the wounds inflicted by the alligator and talks to her. She says that she sees Yuhi as one of them because Setsu looks at her the same way he looks at them. She asks why Yuhi wants to be with Setsu so badly, knowing that he brings a lot of danger with him. Yuhi replies that he has helped her a lot, and it's only fair that she rewards him for it. After this, the girl leaves and talks to Elka. She tells her that everything's fine and that Yuhi is strong. Elka counters by saying that while Yuhi might be good at defending herself on the battlefield, she still lacks the determination to take someone's life. Together, they decide to train Yuhi and give her the determination she lacks. Then, Yuhi goes to talk to Glaine, and he sees that she's still upset about what happened the previous day. He tells her not to worry, as it's natural for good people to hesitate when it comes to taking lives, even for the sake of those they care about. She asks him where he got the determination he has. Glaine responds that he simply decided to make people suffer so that those around him would stop suffering. But he also says that this approach works for him, and maybe Yuhi should find another reason for her determination. She thinks about it and decides on her course of action. The next day, she continues her training. During the magic test, she demonstrates tremendous power that impresses everyone. Later, Elka takes her back to the underground area to fight the alligator again. It appears and confronts Yuhi. She tells Elka to watch her determination and attacks the creature, but she doesn't finish it off. Yuhi explains to Elka that she incapacitated it temporarily, but she won't take its life. She also won't lose to anyone. Elka gives in and tells her it's okay. She even remarks that Yuhi reminds her a bit of Setsu and that she's impressed. She advises Yuhi to keep training because she still needs more power. The next day, everyone is informed that the king has decreed that they will soon go to the demon realm to battle against the demon. Now, after focusing on Yuhi, we return to Setsu and see that he's traveling with Livia to the continent of the beast folk. At some point during their journey, the carriage stops, and they give a ride to two demon girls. Upon seeing one of the girls, Setsu is paralyzed and mentions that it's been a long time since he last saw her. The girl, upon realizing that Setsu is her former master, becomes emotional and starts crying. Setsu explains to Livia that the girl they just met is Alize, and they traveled together some time ago during his previous summoning. At this moment, Alize mentions that she was his apprentice, but Setsu denies it. Alize introduces Amelia and mentions that they are almost like sisters. She asks Setsu why he disappeared suddenly and left her, and Setsu explains that he had a very important mission, which was to come here and leave that cool subscription request down below. So, make sure to subscribe as well. He also asks if she would like to come with him to the continent of the beast folk. She says she would like to, but she can't because she has a big problem to solve in the village where she lives. Alize reveals that she recently accepted a mission to defeat a dragon that was attacking a peaceful village. It was during this mission that she met Amelia. Pay attention to this girl, there will be a big plot twist involving her. Amelia tells them that her family disappeared, and the dragon probably took them. Alize, upon hearing this, is moved and asks if Amelia would like to become her little sister. Setsu finds the story a bit strange and asks if Amelia's brother was really attacked by a dragon. Alize explains that every time the dragon attacks, several villagers disappear, not just her brother. She says that everyone vanishes without a trace, and Setsu comments that this is not normal since dragon attacks usually leave traces. The anime then shows Alize's battle against the dragon. She manages to injure it, but unfortunately, the dragon escapes. When she returns to the village, all the villagers except Amelia have vanished. Alize expresses her desire to find Amelia's brother quickly so they can live peacefully. Alize asks Setsu for his opinion, and he responds that he has never heard of such a situation, and the story seems a bit strained. But he says he wants to help because his precious pupil is in danger. The girls are grateful to him. Livia starts theorizing about what might have caused the disappearance of all the village people and suggests that it might be caused by a necromancer who turned them into zombies. Setsu asks where the dragon fits into this story. Livia explains that it's a zombie dragon. Setsu says that doesn't make sense, and Livia suggests that it might have been the sirens because they have the ability to attract people. Setsu points out that they are in the middle of a forest, so there can't be sirens. At this moment, Amelia says that sea monsters have a specific smell, and it would be easy to identify them. Then, Setsu proposes an even more absurd theory than all of Livia's. He suggests that the disappearances might have been caused by aliens. As expected, everyone thinks it's impossible. Just then, the carriage stops, and the driver says they can't proceed until the water recedes. Setsu asks Alize why this dragon attacked the village so many times. Livia suggests it might have been very hungry or simply attracted by mana. She explains that people's mana attracts monsters. For example, if someone uses powerful magic within the village, it would likely attract many monsters. Setsu raises another question, wondering why the villagers vanished without a trace. He says that people don't just disappear out of nowhere. He suspects that people disappeared first, and then the dragon attacked to cover up these disappearances. Alize says this is impossible, and there would have to be a conjurer in the village, but she doesn't know anyone who could do that. Setsu then tells her to ask the person responsible for this herself and looks at Amelia suspiciously. The girl tries to explain herself, and Setsu asks a question. He says that when he mentioned sirens and sea monsters, Amelia knew they had a different smell. He questions how she knew this since she claims to have always lived in the mountains and never been to the sea. Remember the plot twist I mentioned? Well, at this moment, with nowhere to run, Amelia reveals her true identity. All this time, she was the very dragon that was attacking the village. She transforms and begins to attack them. Setsu orders Alize to attack the dragon with him, and the battle against the dragon begins. The dragon continues to attack the two of them, but Setsu creates an opening for Alize to strike the dragon. She jumps and smashes the dragon's skull, defeating it with a single blow. Afterward, Setsu bids farewell to Alize and continues on Livia to the continent of the beast folk. At the same time, it is revealed that Amelia didn't disappear. She reappears and informs them that all the villagers in the village have become her puppets. She explains that she created those warriors who attacked both humans and demons to provoke a war, and she declares that Tomo is her master. And that's how today's video concludes. Want to know more about this story? Then, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss it when we release the next episode. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help it reach even more viewers. Lastly, I've included an amazing video on the end screen that tells the story of a guy who discovered another world and returned with incredible powers and all bulked up. It's definitely worth checking out. Alright, see you later.